Thank you.
Senator Crapo.
Thank you very much. Not surprisingly, a very common question that I'm asked, and that I think all of my colleagues are asked by our constituents, is, have you read the bill? Imagine their reaction when, on occasions like this, we have to tell them that not only have we not read the bill, but the bill has not been written, and that in the Finance Committee we will be voting on a concept paper, not legislative language. This resolution would address that issue not only with regard to the health care debate, but with regard to all legislation and legislative activity that we undertake here. It's just intuitively obvious to our constituents and to the people in this country that when you are legislating, you should have the language of the bill in front of you as you are debating it, analyzing it, and voting on it. And frankly, the people in this country want to have the same thing. They want to have access to the issues, the language that we are going to be voting on, so that they can not only understand it, but weigh in on it and help us to vet the issues in Congress. Let me give you just a specific example or two. As Senator Bunning has already said, CBO told us in the Finance Committee that although they could get into the ballpark with a score, that they had to reserve their final judgment on what the score would be on the bill until they had the actual legislative language. Now again, you would think that that's obvious, and most Americans understand that very easily. One of the reasons that Americans believe we should have the language in front of us is because they want to know that we know what we are voting on and what we are debating, and what is in the legislation and what it will do. There's another reason, and I just want to give you an example of it, for why we need to have the specific language in front of us. As most of you probably know, one of the amendments that I brought in the finance markup was an amendment that very simply said, and this was in the conceptual language too, as the amendments in the markup were, very simply said that none of the taxes that are imposed by this bill can be enforced against anybody, any individual, who earns less than $200,000 per year as an individual or $250,000 a year as a family. That is the pledge that President Obama has repeatedly made with regard to this legislation. The exact pledge. And in fact, President Obama's words, not the income tax, not the capital gains tax, not any kind of tax will be increased for people in those income categories. And that's exactly what my amendment said. Yet, and I explained that, by the way, that that's exactly what the contemplation of the amendment was. But we didn't have specific legislative language because we were not able to handle this bill in the Finance Committee with that. And now the amendment is being refuted or debated by saying, well, the language is too vague and it might reach beyond taxes on individuals, and it might apply to taxes that are passed through to individuals by corporations or some of the other multitude of fees that are imposed by the bill. And we just want to have more certainty as to what the amendment says. So my point is that just the word taxes is now being debated as to what does it mean. And if we had actual legislative text to be working from, we wouldn't need to be having that debate. So those who want to avoid the impact of the bill or to make it a little bit fuzzy about what the bill really says have an opportunity to do that during the debate on the bill if we don't actually have legislative language before us. So for many reasons, whether we can get accurate scores, whether we can know what's in the bill, or whether we can know have a robust debate about what's in the bill or being proposed to amend the bill, it's critical that we have the actual language in front of us. Thank you.
Senator Vitter.